particular views. And these views are becoming more pervasive. So what ends up happening is you have a journalist who clearly holds these views. I don't even want to call him a journalist. He writes extremely biased and out of context story. Twitter takes action in response, seemingly in response. Then we can look at what happens with Oliver Darcy at CNN. He says, the people at CPAC the conservatives are gullible, eating red meat from grifters, among other things, disparaging comments about the right. And he's the one who's primarily advocating for the removal of certain individuals who you then remove. And then when Kathy Griffin calls for doxing, that's fine. When this guy calls for the death of these kids, he gets a slap on the wrist. And look, I understand the context matters, but grains of sand make a heap. And eventually you have all of these stories piling up. And people are asking you why it only flows in one direction. Because I got to be honest, I'd imagine that calling for the death 3 times of any individual is a bannable offense, even without a warning. You just get rid of them. But it didn't happen, right? We see these, people say men aren't women, though, and they get a suspension. We see people say the editor-in-chief of the Daily Caller may be the best example. #LearnToCode, quoting The Daily Show, and he gets a suspension. Threatening death and inciting death is a suspension, too. It feels like it's only going in one direction.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of work to do to explain more clearly when we're taking action and why, and certainly looking into any mistakes we may have made in those particular situations.
So would you guys agree that in tech, I think we can all agree this, I would hope you agree, tech tends to lean left? Like tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, Google.
I would be willing to bet that a conservative running a social network would not have a hate speech policy. You look at Gab and you look at Minds, and Minds not even right wing.
Right, they're not right wing at all. They just staunchly support free speech, and right. I don't think Gab is necessarily. I don't think the owner is necessarily right wing either.
I don't know much about him. I think he's like a libertarian. I don't want to. I don't want
to specify either. I don't know enough. Yeah, but I know that when you read what they write, they're just staunchly committed to free speech. But they will stop doxing. They will do things to stop targeted harassment and doxing and things along those lines.
Sometimes slowly, admittedly.
Yeah, admittedly. But they just want an open platform. What my point is that I think a lot of people that are on the right feel disenfranchised by these platforms that they use on a daily basis. I don't know what the percentages are in terms of the number of people that are conservative that use Twitter versus the number of people that are liberal, but I would imagine it's probably pretty close, isn't it?
I don't know.
The numbers?
I don't know, because we don't ask people what their
we'd have to infer all that based on what they're saying, or because.
So let's not even go there. But the people that run, whether it's Google or Twitter or Facebook, any of these platforms, YouTube for sure, powerful leaning towards the left. Wouldn't we all agree to that?
Well, we don't ask our employees, but my guess is that many employees at tech companies are probably liberal.
It's really fascinating.
But I also think, you point out all the companies you mentioned are in exactly the same region as well.
Yes,
and we do have the challenge of some monocultural thinking as well. But I have said publicly that yes, we will have more of a liberal bias within our company. I said this to CNN.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we put that in our rules.
Right. But hold on a second. Because what I'm getting at is that at some point in time, things have to get down to a human being looking and reviewing at cases. And if you guys are so left-wing in your staff and the area that you live in and all these things are almost naturally going to lean left. Is that fair to say?
If we were purely looking at the content, but a lot of this agent work is based on the behaviors, all the things that we've been discussing in terms of the context of the actual content itself. That's what the rules are.
Except the misgendering policy, right? So your rules do reflect your bubble, right? Go to middle America and go hang out at a conservative town. They're not going to agree with you. Your rules are based on your bubble in San Francisco or whatever city.
I'm from middle America. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I hear the point. I definitely hear the point in terms of like us putting this rule forth, but we have to balance it with the fact that people are being driven away from our platform.
I hear you.
And they may not disagree. They may not agree with me on that, my folks from Missouri, but I think they would see some valid argument in what we're trying to do to, again, increase the opportunity for as many people as possible to talk. That's it.